What is up, my review bras, and welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm doing a little hiking through the woods while we talk about existential topics, which is just so me. You know me. Oh, you guys love me. I'm just a silly little guy. Flipping my Live Blade Volt Pro today. Very, very happy enjoying that. But, yeah, wanted to talk about some stuff that I'm kind of thinking about. The stuff that I've been thinking about is related to a video that I saw recently that I highly suggest from a guy named Kyle Hill. If you don't know Kyle Hill, he was potentially going to be a Mythbuster at one point. He was also is an awesome science educator on YouTube, makes a bunch of awesome videos of all sorts of topics. One of the main things he's been educating people about is radiation and radioactivity. So he's been visiting sites like Chernobyl and stuff like that, and created an awesome documentary about the quote-unquote Chernobyl dogs, which are like dogs that actually live at Chernobyl, that are either left over from, when Chernobyl was evacuated, or were just in the woods, like wolves and stuff like that. And the dogs that are at Chernobyl now are genetically different than other dogs. It's really cool because they've been so isolated for so long because of the lockdown of the areas and stuff like that. The dog population there has been breeding with itself and has become not like markedly genetically different. They're still just dogs. And it's not like radiation like changed them irreversibly in some way. That's also a misconception. But they're genetically different enough that they are kind of their own little thing, which is very cool. Either way, that's not the video I wanted to talk about. The video I wanted to talk about is the dark forest theory of the internet. And so suddenly the setting makes sense. Now that I'm here in the woods, there is a reason for that. The dark forest theory of the internet is very similar to the dark forest theory of the universe, which is... If you haven't heard of this thing, there's this thing called the Fermi Paradox. The Fermi Paradox states that if the universe is as vast as it is, and intelligent life is as common as we think it might be because we exist and the universe is insanely vast, and the chances of us existing are extremely low, but we do exist, therefore it's highly likely that other intelligent life exists. The Fermi Paradox asks the question, why don't we know about that intelligent life? Like, what's up with that? Why is that intelligent life not here? Why haven't we seen it? Why is there no sign of intelligent life? And there's a number of answers to that. The first one being the universe is just really, really big. It's even bigger than we think it is. The universe is much bigger than you can possibly imagine, and it's much bigger than I can possibly imagine. And maybe it is just genuinely so big, and there is no way to travel faster than the speed of light, or even at the speed of light, that it's just impossible to ever really meet any other civilization that exists, because no matter what, they're going to at least be a star system away, and the idea that we would be able to travel to that in any period of time that is good is not really possible. So that's theory one. Theory two is that there's a great sort of barrier for all civilizations. So say you have an intelligent civilization, at some point there is this great barrier. It's either, some people have speculated that it is AI, some people have speculated that it is war, famine, all sorts of stuff. Energy needs is another one. The idea that you get to the point of a Dyson sphere, which is where you are absorbing all of the energy of, say, your sun, in a solar system. And after that point, if you need more energy, well, you're kind of fucked. So it's that. There's a lot of different ideas as to why. But one of the more interesting ones is the dark forest theory. The dark forest theory puts the universe in perspective of something like this forest. It says that the reason that we don't hear intelligent civilizations broadcasting that they exist is because if they do, they are predated upon by other more advanced civilizations. And so, similar to a squirrel in the woods, if a squirrel is down on the ground and is broadcasting that it exists, it's probably going to get eaten by a fox, right? But if a squirrel is hidden and up in a tree and not broadcasting that it exists, then it will survive longer. And that's kind of one of the ideas behind the dark forest theory of the universe. I don't know how much, precedence that has and how true that might be. But what I do know is that the dark forest theory of the internet is a very interesting one. So, in Kyle Hill's video, he talks about the dark forest theory of the internet and the idea that slowly we all have been receding to darker and darker corners of the internet to protect ourselves. And if you're as old as I am, you probably remember back in the day, we had a thing going on with the internet where there were a lot of public places to exist. I remember back in the day, there were things like Toontown and Penguin Island. Oh my God, Club Penguin. Jesus Christ, I just forgot the name of Club freaking Penguin. God help me. But we thought about a lot of these things, and we had these like public places that existed where people could interact with one another. YouTube was way more open and way more like person-to-person communication instead of just being a place where you got your videos from. There was a lot more open and vibrant communities. There was messaging on YouTube at one point back in the day. Like there was a lot of stuff. Nowadays, we have sort of lost that. And the best examples of this are with like social media. A lot of people end up spending, there's a snail here. That's a big snail. It's dead now. It's just an empty shell, but that's a big snail shell. So essentially what happened is we sort of lost this open internet. And the reason that we lost it is because over time, advertising has crept in to our lives. Originally, it was literally just advertising, but now it's gotten to the point of all sorts of stuff like bots and think about it. If you're on Twitter and you say the wrong thing, you will be covered in bots like immediately. Like they will come out of the woodworks to find you and advertise shit to you. Right? And that is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the dark forest theory of the internet. We have to sort of hide ourselves in certain ways to protect ourselves from the advertisements and the bots. Now that ChatGPT exists and we have OpenAI and we have things like Stable Diffusion where we can generate photorealistic images on the fly and make that instantaneously a thing. A good example that Kyle brings up in his video is the Pope in that big puffy jacket that looks like the Pope has drip. That was a fully AI generated image if you weren't aware of that. The image of the Pope looking cool in a big puffy white jacket, that was entirely AI generated. That is not a real image. And people just bought it. People bought it at face value and were like, oh yeah, that's just the Pope in his cool jacket. But like, if people can do that, imagine the kind of harm that people can create nowadays. And so the dark forest version of the internet is what we have now. A lot of our online interaction has changed from these larger websites, which have pools of people that we can all interact with, to smaller, intimate chambers where we can almost know for certain that the people that we're interacting with are real human beings. Things like Discord, Telegram, Snapchat, even email, but YouTube is another good example, at least for the moment, because currently it's at least harder for someone to generate a video like this. But at the same time, I can already think of a use case where somebody could take like my own videos and re-upload them with an AI that was trained off of my voice from these videos. Please don't do this, by the way. This is not permission to do this. If you do this, I will be very upset with you and will probably come after you legally for using my likeness. I'm just letting you know. Please do not do this. But I could see somebody taking all of the footage that I've uploaded, which is a ton of free training data, and creating an AI that you could put all of the things I've ever said into ChatGPT and then generate new scripts for my videos and then have a AI version of my voice read out those scripts. And then you either put it over footage of videos like this where I'm just walking around and talking about stuff, and like, I don't know how obvious it would be. I think it would be somewhat obvious because like when I talk, I do this, I emote and I tell you about things, and I like point or I gesture or whatever, and so there is a realism there. But like, I don't know, if it was talking about general enough stuff, maybe it would just seem normal to most people. So yeah, that's a terrifying idea. And so that is just another way that slowly we're being shoved more and more into an internet where we can't trust what anyone says. And that's why we're going to not just like Discords. Like I have my Discord server, right? Which is a nice Discord server about balisongs. But my Discord server could become an untrustworthy place because these public Discord servers, once they have bots in them that are so human, they act like humans, which is what OpenAI has done. Like ChatGPT passes the Turing test with flying colors. Not every time, but pretty consistently. It is very hard to get past. Like ChatGPT can convince you it is a human over somebody else. Like, it's wild. And because of that, like people are being convinced all day that ChatGPT, you read a bunch of text online right now that has been generated by someone using ChatGPT, and you read that text and not for a moment do you question that it was actually written by a person when it was not. So this is all to say that leads us to sort of hiding our way in our holes and going into smaller and smaller group chats where we're talking to less and less people. So how do we combat this? Well, there's a number of things we could do systematically that I think are important, but on a personal level, there is a few main things we can do to combat this. Number one being simply existing in a way that is, I'm going to use this funny word, non-fungible. And what does that mean, right? Non-fungible being the funny word from NFTs. Well, for humanity to be non-fungible, we have to exist like I am right now. I'm out here in the woods by myself, talking to a camera and making a video and doing something in the real world. Just the other day, we had our own friends over at our house, and we hung out on our balcony, and we smoked together, and we had a great time talking about all sorts of stuff that bothered us. Because that is what is going to be really important really soon, is having direct personal conversations with your real-life friends. We're going to have to sort of reclaim the outside space. We took our time and we invested that time into the internet. And the internet was fantastic and did a lot for humanity. But at the same time, because of the things that we have created, without asking whether or not we should, we now have to retreat back to the space that we genuinely own, which is real life. And so you can combat these things. You can combat them by existing in the real world, hanging out with your real friends, spending time with people that you genuinely know and genuinely trust, because that's how we need to do to stay sane in this kind of crazy world. That's just a really, really big thing. And it is tempting to dive into more discords and smaller groups with less people that you know you can trust. But at the same time, those are not necessarily a replacement for actual interaction. Like, those things and those moments are not going to replace what you get from the larger Discord servers. The thing that will do that is interacting with people in your real life. You can run into a lot of problems on smaller Discord servers by like having your own ideologies echoed back to you in a little echo chamber that you create accidentally. And so suddenly you create your own extremist ideologies that you don't even realize are extremist because you and your friends have been echoing them back and forth at one another for so long that they don't sound extremist to you anymore. That's just a small example of the kind of stuff that can happen. But I don't know. Either way, I wanted to talk about this a little bit just because all this stuff with AI, especially, I don't know if y'all saw the the whole generative video stuff from OpenAI, but the fact that we're able to like generate fully believable photorealistic videos, there are a number of examples from that AI that immediately I was like, if I just saw that on the internet, I would 100% believe that that was a real video. A lot of them were like documentary style stuff. One of them was like of this bird that I think exists, but I don't know for sure that the bird actually exists. And it was just like a documentary footage of a bird, and it looked completely photorealistic to me. Like I genuinely, if I saw that on the internet, I would just assume that that was footage of that bird. And sure, maybe it's great that we can do that, but also I don't want to be fed AI generated footage of a bird in the same place that I could be receiving real footage of a bird from someone who went out and did the work that it takes to capture that. You know, I would much rather see the real thing. There were a lot of arguments in the comments for that were like, oh, well, now this is democratizing documentaries and you could actually create whole documentaries using this technology. And then people were replying to that like, what are you talking about? That literally defeats the point of a documentary. If everything in the documentary is completely and totally created out of noise, it's made up and hallucinated out of noise, sure, it can look as realistic as you want, but you're literally just showing us a bunch of made-up garbage. You didn't go out and do any of the work that's related to creating a documentary, and like, why would you even do that? I just don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's wild. So, yeah, you know, it's terrifying. There's a lot of scary stuff happening in the world nowadays, and I think that we should be prepared for it and cognizant of it. But at the same time, I also don't think it's like an end of the world kind of scenario. I want to be totally honest in saying this is a very fixable thing. We have the ability to fight back against this kind of stuff. We can support one another and encourage one another and call out bad actors when they happen and be cognizant about the content that we are consuming. But it will take some time, and it will be a difficult journey. But that's all to say that I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I wanted to talk about this stuff that's been bothering me. This is a bit of a long, rambly one, but at the same time, I think this is much closer to good old Will Flips that you guys are used to, because, I mean, here I am doing my long, rambly rants about all sorts of shit, so... Oh boy, did I just cut the fuck out of my thumb. I don't think it actually is going to bleed, though. Do you see that? You see that cut? I think I cut the dermis off of the epidermis off of my skin. If you don't know, your skin is made of multiple layers. You have the epidermis and then the dermis underneath that. And the epidermis is just this outer layer of skin that is relatively thin and relatively dry, which makes it stronger, but also it can break more easily, which is why, like, when your hands get really dry in the winter, sometimes some people's knuckles will actually, like, start to crack and bleed. I have that problem when it gets really dry out. Yeah, that's the epidermis right there. Thankfully, I didn't actually cut the crap out of myself. I just sliced off the outer layer of my skin. Isn't that fun? I'm shedding like a lizard. All right. Well, that's enough out of me. I'm going to stop this before I keep dropping my knife and embarrassing myself. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.